I thought I'd try a different angle this time, mix it up. So, the third season of The Office. I enjoyed this season. It carried all of season two's strengths over and took the show in a couple different directions, even though it's not too different. Brought in some new people and did a pretty good job in my mind. I'm impressed with it because even though season two did do a lot of stuff with the less important people, aka the people not in the intro, even though you can argue everyone's important, getting in some new characters here, kind of helped equalize the playing field, because that's the interesting thing about these new characters, even though mainly it's just Andy and Karen, because when we first are introduced to them, they do have a role to play in moving Jim's story arc along and giving us more examples of what's going on outside of the Scranton branch. But then once they come into the Scranton branch, they become a little bit more like the characters of, say, Phyllis, Stanley, Meredith, arguably, in that they do have their occasional big story events happen, but in many ways they're there to provide supplements to the main cast. Although, it's not entirely true of Andy in my mind, because in my mind he's kind of like how Dwight was before you introduce his story arc with Angela, and that he truly is meant to just help other people along. Not entirely a bad thing, because Ed Helms does a pretty good, decent job with Andy. You enjoy his humor from time to time. You can tell he can do some stuff, but his personality frequently screws himself around, kind of like Michael, which is probably one reason Andy tries to socialize with him so much at the beginning there, and then try not to mind Dwight. Or maybe that's Dwight. Oh, wait. They're both trying to undermine each other. Silly me, right, yeah. And, yeah. So it does have a little bit of a catch to it, but trying to introduce new people, it ended up working out with them pretty well. And then the continuation of everyone's story arcs, I'm impressed, because they actually managed to introduce a little bit deeper feelings in here. So now it's not so much a comedy, now it's getting a little closer to the dramedy bit, even though compared to the only other dramedy that I can think of, which is MASH, the continuing story in here is a lot more obvious than there, even though I missed on a lot of the subtext of that show when I was younger, right? So that summarizes my thoughts on most of the season. And then I thought that there was a couple of other things that I wanted to talk about. Well, because they're going into a little bit more serious bits, I do think you can argue that this season has a little more negative moments, although to be fair, that's mainly Jan and Michael's storyline, because compared to everything else, it's not too bad. Oh yeah, sure, the Pam and Roy bit is negative, but given what else was going on in that show, we knew that that was going to happen eventually, we just didn't know when. But actually about Jan real quick, the season does kind of start that she isn't exactly making the best decisions for herself, but the problem is, I feel like the ultimate decision by Michael's boss to let her go, in a way it comes kind of out of left field. Now to be fair, okay, they do want to surprise Michael along with us, the audience, but I just feel like they could have done a little bit better job of giving his character a little bit more input, and then also his decision to hire Ryan at the end. It just happens. Like, I'm not totally satisfied with a couple of things that happened in that episode. Now, to be fair, the little bits where Jim and Karen kind of break up, that's not exactly addressed in the episode, but like with Pam and Roy, you can kind of tell they're heading towards that point, especially since Karen's attraction to Jim is far less revealed than Jim's attraction to Pam, because he's gradually admitting it over the course of Season 1 and the first few episodes of Season 2. But here, she becomes attracted to him by the end of like the second or third episode. Call of Duty, yeah, so. Sometimes I do have a couple of things to complain about, even though overall it's not that big of a deal by any stretch of the imagination. But, yeah. So I'm currently watching the fourth season and enjoying it, and I'm sorry that I'm not exactly coming up with the most original themes. It's because I've actually seen seasons 1 through 5 of this show a long time ago, and at least for the first half of it, I'm pretty sure you can guess how I feel, so yeah.